things. I'm going to keep this a little bit more interactive. I'm an entrepreneur now. I run my company. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about you guys. I'm actually going to go into depth. I've done some research on all the companies that Jabbar gave me about a week ago. So I'm going to be talking about some of your own companies. So I want to try to make it as interactive as possible. I picked out about 3 different companies that I'm going to be talking about. But that's a little bit later on in the slides. So right now, I'll just go over my main talk. And I am the founder of 55B. To give you some context about what I'm wearing on my head, it is an EEG. Right now, my data is being uploaded to my app so that when I look back, it actually can tell stress, relaxation. So this is not going to be like a biology course, but I am going to get into it. I studied business, but then I moved on to computational neuroscience, neurolinguistics, and neuroeconomics. Those are my main fortes now. I'm actually doing a thesis on neurolinguistics and how it actually correlates to health and your reality. So language, words, they can bring life and then they can bring death as well. So I'm going to get into all of that. Talking about data is something that I love. I get really interested when we start talking about numbers and processes, but I want to make sure, this is just the Wikipedia version of it. I mean, it's whatever. I'll read it. Originally an ancient Greek term used to rely on the observation of phenomena perceived and experienced, then it was referred to theory of knowledge and philosophy, which adheres to the principle that knowledge arises from experience. Whatever. Right? So it just, all it means is the fact that you're observing something, right? And then you're then taking your observation and then coming to a conclusion. The input, the output. I'm going to be talking about a lot of different senses, stuff that pertains to your business, stuff that I've taken, stuff that I wanted to make sure that I put on to you guys. And I'll get into AI, I'll get into ML, I'll get into deep learning as well. So that you guys can also use the tools, as me as an entrepreneur, coming from New York, coming from the Bay, can then teach you guys. So, oh yeah, I put this so you get the little things too. You guys will be able to see that. That's cool. I like to make it a little more interactive. So some of the stuff we'll go over, how to make your data work for your company, your startup, scaling data strategy economically, because we are all broke, right? Understand why data is the new electricity/oil, machine learning and data science methodology for labeling. Some of the stuff will be redundant just a little bit from DAS. Difference between startup data infrastructure and enterprise, why empirical data structure is more important now than ever before, and then basics on how to implement some neuro data. If there's anything that you guys need me to slow down on, please tell me, please. That was nice too, yeah. So a little bit about myself. From New York, I was in healthcare for about 6 years. I managed about 500 different companies in New York, everything from Mount Sinai, St. Barnabas, hospitals, home healthcare companies. My dad actually graduated from Yale with his master's in organizational health. My mom, also a healthcare individual. I think that's the reason why it kind of looped me back into neuroscience, which was pretty interesting, how that happens. I don't know, it's weird. But so a couple of things about myself. I started out competitive basketball player, loved basketball my entire life. I believe that when you love something, you surround yourself with it, just like you guys in your businesses, right, your babies. So I would say I started out training, and then I built that into over 1,000 clients, and then I brought on more coaches, and then I went international to the UK, to Italy. But then I wanted to scale, and I just didn't want to be, stuck in the rut, going one person after another. So I developed an application that basically just took me out of the complete picture and connected trainers and clients around the world. And then I said, I think I want a little bit more, and that's how we are as humans. And I'll talk about that as well, the more human factor. So after that, I got more into virtual reality and augmented reality because in 2016, I had an issue with my brain. And it was 2 different episodes. So then that got me into learning more about how certain applications can affect your brain. And I'll get more into that detail, like your cell phone, and how that affects you, and then how other corporations then affect that. So it's a trickle-down effect, and I want to make sure you guys starting out as smaller companies, you begin to learn these things. Because I say it this way, we do talk about the scary things of AI or machine learning or deep learning, but you guys in the room are the ones that are building those companies. So yeah, it's going to get a little scary, but that's what the great thing is about it. So I moved to San Francisco in January. It seems like yesterday. We built in augmented reality, so computer vision was like my thing. Loved it. I was in VR. We won the MIT hackathon. We built a healthcare product in VR to help elderly patients rehabilitate. Because I knew that getting patients out of bed and then walking them was a hazard. So, government from Boston liked it, whatever. So after from VR to AR, we built an application that when you walked into a networking event and held your phone up, you actually were able to connect with people. And that was my thing. I wanted people to come to a networking event with a tool other than themselves to help them augment themselves. So I moved that out into San Francisco, as you guys know, and which I've learned now that sometimes when you go into a new environment and you have nothing, you learn more than you ever could. So when I went up to San Francisco, I was like, man, after a couple of months, completely washed away from the idea. I'll say we did a quick pivot, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to talk about this more in your companies as well. I have about a team of 6 now. I told them, hey, I see that we're on this AR right now, but I got asked a couple of different questions, and I'm going to get into that as well. And I said, but I think, are we an AR AI company? And this is the question I got asked. Are you an AR AI company, augmented reality artificial intelligence company? Are you an artificial intelligence augmented reality company? And sometimes when you guys are building your businesses, that's some of the hard questions you're going to have to ask yourself, right? So we took the AI, AR road, and we ended up pivoting, which I'll talk a little bit about later on, called Cody. So 55B, if you guys do not know, it's actually short for Area 55B. That's the part of your brain that deals with visual storytelling. A lot of people don't even know you have that, but you do. And we all have, and I'm going to talk about storytelling as well, so that you guys get a better way of telling your stories, your truths, right, in your businesses. So I always like to say, life is now in session. Are you present? I will keep this interactive. I'll try to do whatever I can in order that you guys can keep yourselves entertained. So I love this slide. I know Das was talking about China. I will talk about China as well. They are blowing past the United States in certain sectors. But that is mainly because of policy and regulation. Those are the main things. And that's what the US is going to have to pick up on in order to really catch, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. I like to bring this into fact. The first wave of AI, a little bit of the history, Facebook, internet, a lot of what you guys have already been built, clicks, likes, all of those things can be implemented onto your own services now. I looked up your companies. I didn't see any autonomous vehicles. I saw bakery. I saw DC. I'll talk about you. A couple other companies as well, but I didn't see anything that was to the point of where it was wave 4, which is what you guys see now. So think of it this way, right? You wake up out of your bed. You go to the bathroom. Your bathroom tells you that you're a little sick. Maybe you didn't have that much to drink for water. Maybe you shouldn't have that cup of coffee, right? After that, you walk, you get your stuff. Your car already pulls up, which you have 3 random friends, because you should get to know different people, right? So you step in the car, and your car drives you off and drops you off, and this continues to go. And it doesn't stop. You pay $5 a month because that just covers insurance. Think about that, right? That is where artificial intelligence is going. That is not science fiction. We have the money. Most of the technology is there. There are regulations and things that are going to be in place that your companies and your businesses need to have. And it's not and Dallas was talking about this as well, it's not a I might, it's a you must. It's a you must. So again, IBM Watson, another good one. Some of the facial recognition stuff I'll get into as well. So just a brief history on algorithms. It was good that he went over some of the data. An algorithm is a strategy for computing something, sorting, searching, finding primes. So primes are pretty, I think finding habits in your consumers. So whatever company you have, whether it's bakery, whether it's healthcare, you have to figure out patterns. And once you figure out patterns, you then can create better engagement, a better solution. You become a better company. What are the patterns that you have as a company that you can then relay to your customers? Or a nonprofit, is it engagement? Is it people? Is it effect? Is it impact? What are you doing technically in order to better engage your platform? Because you wouldn't be here if you didn't have one, or trying to make one, plain and simple. If not, then it's just, I would say this, anyone that doesn't want to try to figure out things to better their business, it's better if you just go work for a big company. Save yourself the stress. Just doesn't make sense. Data structure is a way to store data. Combined, we have data structures, organized data and algorithms, and some of the history. The study of algorithms back in the 300, hold on a second. I'm going to go through a little video. Hopefully this comes up. Small video. Oh, got it. Yeah.
The first wave of Islamic science returns me to the man we first met at the beginning of this story in the back streets of Cairo, the great mathematician who brought the West the decimal system.
Out of the very heart of this intellectual whirlwind came Al-Khwarizmi, mathematician, astronomer, courtier, and favorite of the Caliph al-Ma'mun. He was a product of his age, an immigrant from eastern Persia into Baghdad, surrounded by books, well-versed in learning from Greece, Persia, India, and China, and fearless in his thinking.
Al-Khwarizmi brought together two very different mathematical traditions and synthesized them into something new.
The capacity to have on your desk simultaneously two very different kinds of mathematics presses on models of what counts as calculation, what counts as measurement, and I think accelerates the process of intellectual change.
The first of these traditions came from the Greek-speaking world. Greek mathematics dealt mainly with geometry, the science of shapes like triangles, circles, and polygons, and how to calculate area and volume. The other great mathematical tradition Al-Khwarizmi inherited came from India. They'd invented the 10-symbol decimal system, which made...
So I wanted to bring this up just to give you guys some history. You can go back to YouTube to check out the video. But when I was doing computational neuroscience, I continue, I see the world a little bit not just so like colorful. I see it somewhat in numbers. Because everything in I think in the entire world is math. It comes down to math. Everything, based to DNA. I mean, it's literally everything. So you have to take a step back from your company, your startup, your nonprofit, and say, okay, how can I break this down to numbers? Whether it's the individual that has to step into my door, or is it someone that I have to impact? How can I break it down? And then once you break it down from one step to another, you then can make positives, outputs, when it comes down to going over something real quick, high level and then low level, gaining knowledge by means of direct and indirect observation. I'm going to go over that in just a second. So economically, what have you done to conduct empirical data research? Similar to what Dow said, he says, you ask the right questions to yourself, your customers. Listen without intent. That's very, very important. What is it that you need? And then be quiet and have that information come and then jot it down. Set up a scalable loop back to your product, whatever it is. If it's in healthcare, I'll go over, maybe even setting up SMS text messages. I'll get back into that. Right now, I believe that over the course of this year, I believe it's either 6 months or 8 months, 3 billion messages are sent through SMS. SMS is becoming the new workspace. So a lot of things happen via email, but a lot of marketing, different tools are coming through SMS. 3 billion messages. And it's almost untapped. Like you just subconsciously open your text messages. So think about that other than you opening your email in comparison when it comes to conversion rates. Set up empirical concepts and then test them. And then this one, of course, is big. Story plus product / idea equals step forward. You have to tie a story into it. And story can come from data, which I'll tell you in a bit. You have your product and your idea. And then that steps forward, meaning it could be more sales, it could be better engagement, it can be whatever you want it to be. Okay, so enterprise or startup, first question, how do you manage clients? How do you manage inventory of the product? Is our product ready for market fit? How do we keep people coming back, which is the engagement part? And then you have, how do you save money on your current product? How can we strategically match the market or get ahead of it? Do we have options on current revenue and how to expand those options? So I'll ask you guys, which one is startup and which one's enterprise? Because they're two separate. All right. Anybody else?
I'm probably wrong, but I would say that the left is startup because we're probably all differently thinking. And saving money on the product is like something that is already in place.
Absolutely. Great job. See, and look, after you study linguistics for a bit, you said, I'm probably wrong. That was, come on, you can't do that. Not to me. I'll say, please. Yeah, so that was right. Exactly. So we think about this, right? As a startup, economically, you want to make sure that you're asking the right questions. And when you set up your enterprise, and I'm pretty sure, statistically, we have at least 2 or 3 million-dollar companies in here, statistically on average. So someone's going to be $1 million company. So I would say you got to ask the right questions. Sometimes you got to look forward and then scale back, right? So yes, startup, enterprise. How do we retain? How do we capture more of the market? Startup is run around with your head loose asking questions. And if you don't want to do that, then it's fine. Like I said, go work for a bigger company. But it's going to take a lot of work. And it's going to take a lot of customer research. And it's going to take you guys actually engaging in people and talking about your product. So some startup data structure, API calls, which we'll get into it, which you guys can utilize. Simple things like Facebook and tags, profile name, information, name, date of birth, picture, geolocation. I'll get into that stuff as well. Social networks, obvious habits, phone number, which I talked about as well, being able to tie back an SMS text message to get better and higher conversion rates, and questions in line with your startup. Do any of you guys use any of these methods at all? Geolocation, using maybe GPS, Google, maybe for your store, do you utilize GPS services? Maybe healthcare, maybe no, geolocation at all? Does anyone use any of these methods that are just small? Geolocation? Okay, so when you can utilize, so say if you download your application and you tag current location, that's what it is. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I thought you said, do you think that would be maybe helpful in your company?
Yeah, doesn't API help with logging?
Exactly. Yes. Do you think geolocation would help at all?
We looked into sort of some geofencing based stuff, but
Get him a mic probably, right? You want a mic?
we'd actually evaluated some geofenced ad servicing through actually SMS and stuff like that based off, when they're entering sort of our designated sales area, either based on Wi-Fi connectivity or something like that. And then with the sales guy actually had tried to get us to set up ads around our customers' location or our competitors' locations, which we thought was kind of hilarious, but decided not to do. But yeah, no, it seems like since we're in a pretty high foot traffic area, it might be something we look into more. It was a lot of enticing stuff, but it didn't seem like it was baked enough to really make sense for us.
Okay, no, that's good. And tell me this, why did you not want to go with the salesperson idea to do that? With the you said that you didn't want to go ahead and
With the
utilize,
geofencing?
set it up around competitors?
Yeah, it was part of it, like a large package, and including like a high definition video and stuff
lot
like
of money.
that too. Yeah.
Basically, okay, thanks. A lot of people say this, but I like this. Not all data is created equal. Not all data is good data. So I'm going to get into some more stuff with machine learning and deep learning, what Das talked about just on the surface. Machine learning is teaching the data to work for you over and over again, whether it's geolocation, whether it's spatial data, whether it's electronic medical records, even though you got to be HIPAA compliant. You have to be able to touch on all 5 of the senses when it comes to it. I'll get into more detail. So tagging, classifying. The particular companies that you guys have back there, what company is it that you have?
In my mind,
Oh, yeah, in your mind.
education,
Like what?
teaching kids about financial literacy.
Okay, perfect. Can you get her a mic, please? Oh, she has it? Okay.
Do you want me to repeat that?
Please.
Okay, yeah. Education company dealing with youth and around financial literacy.
Okay, good. So education
Advanced.
inside of the home or inside of the school?
Not inside of schools.
Okay.
More after school programs
Okay.
inside the home.
On tablets,
Yeah, eventually.
computers.
And instructor led.
Okay, all right. So what are some of the metrics do you believe that you would want to encapsulate to make it a better personal experience for each individual student?
Once they were using it, just engagement in different types of activities where I'm losing them, where I can tell that they're really interacting with the program.
Yeah, similar to what China does, right? With the cameras on all the kids that are sitting down, they can understand empathy. If the person is losing concentration or not, they can tell that. So similar to what China does
Sure.
with video analytics. I just want to make, is it? Sounds like it.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
So I would say, no, I'm saying that because education is a very, very great space to be in, especially now in the US. But you want to make sure that the metrics that you're capturing are not just help the user, but also help you from a data standpoint and the value of your company. Because what I've seen is sometimes when you set up new data sets and you say, okay, you know what, I understand the emotion of kids around 3 o'clock. That's powerful. That data is powerful. So when we're setting up metrics to our own companies, we want to make sure that it's not just about, hey, you know what? Because there is a lot of data, it's like throwing out a net. You want to make sure that you are focused on particular points that then can value your company higher. I learned that the hard way, which I'll go into more. So likes, comments, and shares, what Pinterest does, all of this stuff is machine learning. Even your Social Security. Yeah, I put it up there. I want to make sure you guys, everything. Everything can be tagged and classified in different routes and areas. So you guys can do it yourself from a high level or low level standpoint. I'll let you guys read that. So if you can, partner up for me, please. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Partner up, partner up, partner up. Someone that you might have not talked to before. And you need a piece of paper. Get to a table, get to a table, get to a table. Y'all two together? All right, great. Y'all two? Perfect, perfect, perfect. Grab a seat next to each other and get a piece of paper. Just one sheet of paper, something. If not, I got one. If you don't have one, I got one. Anybody else need a piece of paper? Yeah, just one piece is fine. You need a pen? You need a pen? Here you go, here you go. Someone's right here. Somebody's pen right here. There you go. All right. All right, perfect. So what we're going to do right now, I want you guys to ask these questions. And these are all based off of your ideas, your companies that are here are already built. What is stopping you right now from gathering the right data? Right? You're like, you might be a little scared. It might be a little weird. No, I don't want to do it. Sales, economically, put it all down. Just maybe a sentence. What do you believe is the right data for your customers or your competitors? What data structures do you already have in place? Do you even have any? Where do you see your company in 5 years? I love that question. Are you already using API calls like geolocation or any of that? Would you use them? Do you have someone on your team? Because that's also a big question. Some of us don't even have anybody on the team. We have to outline some of that IT work, which is okay sometimes. Similar to the question of what you said with Facebook, being Facebook Pixel, right? With that, I'll be like, whatever. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to own all of it. I don't want Facebook or anybody else tagging onto my data that I work for my customer. That's how I think. Because when you go to sell a company or merge with a company, they say, okay, let me look at your stack. Oh, you have all of these Facebook calls? That means if we take these out, your company now goes from this to this. But what you collect on your servers or your servers is what you own. And that's your value. So I say, yeah, if you have to use it to scale or Google anything else, cool. I'm going to go into my business a little bit down the line and the reason why we will not use those companies, because a lot of the stuff we already have is patent. And I'm like, yeah, that's just the way that I think. So I go right into entrepreneur mode, like, yeah, but you worked hard, you did the footwork for it. When someone comes and says, okay, let's see you do a technical diligence, they'll say, well, you got 1,000 calls with Google. Well, you have Facebook, or you got this, Twitter. How valuable is your actual company? But then you can say, hey, okay, yeah, but we have all of this that's already cleared and secured. So you guys got 10 minutes. I'll give you 8 now because I know we got to pick up on time. And go. Go. 6 minutes. Five minutes. Three minutes. Minute and a half. $50 seconds. $20 seconds. $10 seconds. Time. Time. Give yourself a round of applause. All right. So I want to ask, hello? I want to make sure that we go in a little bit more detail. So first, raise your hand if you answered a couple of these questions and give me the answers to them. I'll start with you guys. There you go. And just say the question and then say the answer you gave.
So what's stopping me from gathering more data, or the right data right now? Probably lack of sensors more than anything else, and then the gathering data about sort of the communities and stuff like that we're trying to develop in our space is sensitive in a lot of ways, I think, and getting beyond just a surface level is probably difficult.
Yeah. And you run the gaming company, right?
Games, yeah, game store.
Games, yeah. I looked at you guys as well. So I would ask this question. Other than getting new customers, how can you keep the customers you already have? I'd ask you that question. how do you have, what do you tie in gamification wise?
So we do have a lot of individual Facebook sort of communities. We have newsletters, stuff like that. Personality is a big part of it in our business, like having people that are friends to the people that sort of come in. And
Referrals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the employees and the owners are a big draw for
Okay.
a lot of folks too. So it's a very personal thing that way.
And when did you start the company?
About 2 years ago.
Okay. Well, I would say, and I think that's great. I saw what you guys do kind of on the surface with the website. I didn't really tag in that much, but I would also say that is also, when you get to the friends and family, that's like the beginning, right? And then when you have people that you talk about lifetime value, right? So customer acquisition, how much does it cost on the dollar to acquire a customer that isn't your friend or isn't a partner, right? That's when you have to tie back in loops, right? And I think that also goes down to the next question. Where do you see your company in 5 years? So give me a small caveat to that. I'm gonna go around and ask.
Sure. So kind of what we're doing now, we see will probably be evolving. Probably an additional location, most likely outside of the city, expanding the current location. We're getting more into e-commerce stuff, especially listing pretty much our entire inventory on Amazon, because everything's limited print run. And getting into publishing, since we're kind of collecting data about what's missing, I guess, in the market a little bit.
Okay. All right. Good to know. All right. Perfect. Anybody else? Who else? I'm just gonna call on you. Right there. You gonna pass that back to him, please? If you can say your name too, that'd be great.
Okay, I'm Richard Lucas, co-founder of Collision Sports LLC.
Okay. Looked at you guys too.
Thank you. We answered the fourth from the bottom on the left-hand side. Where do we see our company in 5 years? We answered as a competitive, local, and regional content creator. We emphasize creator because in our industry, so to speak, we see a lot of companies typically just adding commentary, not necessarily creating content, but adding commentary to just viral things they may have seen, sports related, of course, tends to go viral still, as opposed to fresh new content. So really our emphasis, like I said, is just creating entirely new, unique, fresh content for specifically youth in Kansas City.
Got it.
In
Okay.
the area.
Great, thank you. So what I'm going to get down to, I'm going to ask one more company to speak about it, and you guys should love talking about your companies. This is your baby, whether it's you guys are doing this in a side job, you guys should love to be engaged in whatever you're starting. When I ask this question, I go into the Peter Thiel mode, right? 5 years, but how can you get that done in 6 months? Right? If that all of those things that you guys answered can be done in 6 months, right? But there's a fear, there's something that's there, whether it's, okay, I think we want to take steps, or maybe we shouldn't, maybe we should. That's a good idea, that's a great idea, and I already see kind of where you're going because I was in the gaming world for a while. With you guys as well, when it comes down to media, right, the things that are transpiring, how can you get that done by 2019 initiatives? I think you could do it. Right, so when I think about, and then I also get back into linguistics, it's not just local, you're global, right? Speak into what you want. So I'll ask another company. Yeah, of course, yeah. Whatever one you
Whatever
have.
you want. I'm just here to help you.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
we answered them all. So what you tell
All
me
right,
what
so
you want
answer
me to
whatever one you want. Popcorn.
Okay. Do you no? Which one? The second one. So what do you believe is the right data from your customers or competitors?
Yeah.
To me, there's no wrong data. I think that anything you can learn from, because either it's going to either help you deviate from doing something, or it's going to help you go forward in what you do. It's kind of like when people say when you raise a child, that child either goes directly towards what you did or goes directly away from that. So I believe any data is good data because you can learn either. For me, I have a catering company.
Okay.
But with my catering company, I have it broken down into 5 different divisions. I have a seasoning and a sauce company. I do personal chefs for celebrities. I've started to do a lot of stuff with pharmaceutical reps, and then I have my own idea of me doing some AI related stuff for businesses based off of some stuff that's happening here in Kansas City, where I want to have remote, like Amazon Go, AI things in like doctors' offices and busy companies where they can come in and get fresh local food and just go on about their business. So, and then I've got some stuff that I'm doing with the kids here in the local ecostructure where they're teaching them now how to cook holistically and how to cook from the ground. And then I want to teach them how to use that and cook that way, but also being in an urban area where if you have chicken nuggets and you have Cheetos, you ground those hot Cheetos up and we're going to make you buffalo chicken. And so, you know what I'm saying? You can take these Roman noodles and we can add in something else and make it a healthy meal, but using what you have besides using what you want them to have.
So I'm on the opposite side of the data spectrum in that I have a lot of really crappy data. And it's all in that form that Ross was saying earlier of like your data becomes information, then becomes an insight. Like I have a whole bunch of data that isn't really giving me a lot of information. It certainly isn't giving me insight. Like Google Analytics, like I will stare at it for like way too much time considering how little insight I get from it. It's like perfect example. Huge waste.
Thank you. Yeah. Which is, I think, right now, the problem in the time that we live isn't we're not data scarce. We have that information because we develop it every single day with your cell phone, which I'll go into when it comes down to the senses, all the 5 senses that you have, right? Sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste, all of that stuff ties into your everyday life. So thank you. You guys give yourself a round of applause for that. It was good. So I'm going to go into my company a little bit. So 55B, like I told you, I already told you the origin of it. It's an AI company that creates reports and analytics for enterprises and startup companies. We basically create reports for basically workplace emotion. We call it sentiment analysis for workplace morale. So we basically can, in an enterprise company, and this is why I break it down this way, you have a company culture, and we can tell you how your employees actually feel about that in real time. As a startup, we give you analysis and breakdown for the company culture that you want, and we can track that and give it back to C-level suites or yourself if you're a founder, right? Every company, every enterprise has their culture, whether they're a $5 company or a $1 billion company. And one of the processes that we do use is natural language. And I will tell a quick story. It's pretty crazy, but it's all right. When I was 4 years old, just to let you know, my mom is a minister, has always been, 50 years. Every night, she would tell me the same exact scripture. Now, this is crazy, right? This is crazy. And if you call my mom, she could attest to it. She would say, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it should eat the fruit thereof. Proverbs 18 and 21. How did she know I was going to be running a natural language processing company about words that I'm actually writing my thesis on about how language and health correlate? I don't know. So that's what Cody does. Cody's the process. We can overlay onto servers. We do everything from email. We do everything from every single messaging application like Jabber, Viper, Slack. we can integrate on those platforms and in real time be able to tell using syntax or text messages that come in and out. We're going to get it to a point where, think of it this way, you're about to send a message and a pop-up comes when you are about to send it, and it says, you know what, are you sure you want to send that? It's yellow on your company culture list. So just think of it that way, right? So that's what Cody does. And I'm going to tell you some of the approaches that we took to collect some of that data. It's not, all of the data that you do collect isn't like generalized sometimes to each and individual company. Our company's different than everyone else's, right? So I'll show you a little bit of a video. Yeah, I will. So I'll walk through it. Hopefully it comes up.
No,
yeah.
It didn't just turn it off and just set my phone. And I wouldn't know.
So I'll go over this really quickly. Me with neuroscience, I think about, okay, how if we're based off of linguistics and we're talking about the particular company that we want and how it actually truly affects people. We did a survey first at a high level, right? And we sent out the survey, and because of the climate of this country, in 3 days, I believe we got back 90 results. It was something, or maybe 80 results in like 3 days. That's high level research. That's for everybody, right? But then we wanted to get all the way down to the user. So in our office in San Francisco, we took individuals, we put them in a separate room, we put an EEG on them, we gave them a phone and a laptop, and then we sent indelicate messages to them. And then we were able to correlate the time in which we sent the message and which part of the brain of when it spiked. So that's what you would call low-level data research. And I'll go into depth with it. This is going to be a quick video, but this is the reason why I'm going about it this way and why our company had to do that. Not every company is going to have to do it, but that's the reason why we did it.
Go back to work, because I have gotten stuff like that, from, friends, whatever. It's just like, and it was just more banter than anything. So it's just like, within that world, I'm sort of used to it. The only one that I say was just like it would, if I didn't know already know the context, if it was the just check out the girl, just like that one, just like, whatever, man, it's just like, that would be the one that was just like, whatever, like everything else, just like, yeah, they're both, but different variants of just like, whatever. The one was I think it was the last one.
I want to kill everybody.
Yeah. That would be more on it would be more on the concerning end, Again,
So I did that because I do this at a lot of the talks that I speak at. Let me see, how do you lower this one? Hopefully, no, it's not it. Hopefully this keeps going. Do I still have control? Yes. Okay, so there is a reason why you do certain data structures in data research. Sometimes it's not based off of the data that you do get. It's based off the story. How can you tie a story into your company? How can you tie back a loop about how a person got there, why they got there, why they received what you gave them, right? So for right now, I'll click onto this after the Excel spreadsheet, but I'm gonna go right into this. I talked to you about the high level. This was a research that we did with my UX UI researcher. Is this low level or high level empirical data research? What do you think? High level, right? Exactly. Regular Google forms, sent out the forms, and we got this back. We're like, wow, there's issues. How do you develop applicable data to drive your story. Then we got a little deeper. We said, all right, have you ever experienced any of these results due to workplace harassment? Stress, 86%. Anxiety, 83%. Depression, trouble sleeping, panic attacks. This is our company that we can take data and create a story. It starts to change the dialect when you have the ability to do both. Then this one, each data point can be told strategically. Did this affect your ability to perform at work? Trouble making decisions. Whoa, someone will be like, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, you did, right? So difficult concentrating, lower self-esteem. All of these things are a part of your story, a part of your story of your company. And you write the pages. So it starts from the beginning all the way to the end, from the research that you do to the time when you sell your company. How can you set that up strategically? And then this one was great. Look at this. Let's read this one. Do you feel you've ever harassed anyone in your workplace? No. You know what that tells us? They don't even know they're doing. So right there, as we go down the line, we went low level. Look at how it's affecting people. We can tell the spikes. Then we go high level. Hey, look, this is, beginning, middle, and end. And they're like, wait, hold on. You're telling me 83% of people that you guys surveyed don't even know they do what you're trying to solve for? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
About the structure of the question.
Yep.
And so, like, having a how or
Yeah.
what question.
There's some stuff there that is skewed, and you can correlate for that. I mean, the first question, you think about it this way, there's a lot of different contexts, but it's the story you tell. So the questions that you ask, these are the ones we did. You can ask completely different questions that can still strategically go into your story for your business.
Have you actually looked how much of it is people denying it and how much of it, sometimes in a company with 100 employees, maybe there are 2 or 3 people harassing many others?
Oh yeah, these are no, it's very, very true. And I only put up 4 questions. We did a lot more questions than this. We went into a lot more detail. I just put up the 4 that just made most sense, that's all. But I understand what you mean with asking more and more questions. So, why do you think we took this approach? Any answers?
I think that sometimes it's easier to show people what's really going on and use data as a objective tool to reflect back on themselves, so that they're not making a judgment based on you or your company, but it's being forced to internalize that they don't know everything going on with their company and might have some needs that they haven't seen.
Yeah, good answer. How, and I'm going to get into this in the next one, can you create your own technical data strategy using storytelling? Can you even do it? Is the company story even ripe yet? I mean, I know you've been out for 2 years, right? You might have some stories to tell. Research and experience plus imagination. Theta is what kids have before they hit the age of 7. I can go into that later on. And then that equals your story and your truth. What I want you guys to do right now, quickly, is pitch me on your company using data strategy, tying data, imagination, back into your story. And I want to ask somebody who hasn't said anything yet. Oh, first, what your name? Henry. Oh, you got it right there. There you go.
Not really sure what you want me to say.
So I would say, I know it's a pretty it's off the top of your head. I would say use the data that you already have in your mind. I don't know what your startup is or what your company is. Add that into a piece of what maybe you've done and what you're doing and why it's important to you. And then the outcome would be the solution of, oh, you know what? I want to know more. Tell me more. Or it's like, okay.
Okay, so I started like kind of an Amazon selling business a few years back. And it wasn't that much revenue. It was kind of a hobby. It's more of a hobby. We had some revenue and everything, but Amazon fees were just ridiculously high, right? So they would take 15%, and then they would take on some categories they would take 15%. And they would take like an item fee if you weren't a professional seller, and then if you were a professional seller, they would take that professional seller fee. And there's just so many fees that were built upon it. And like if the customer purchased using like Visa transactions, that would take away from Amazon's profit, which thus takes away from your seller's profit, right? So I had that business, and
10 seconds.
And so I'm starting as so with all those fees, I'm trying to start a startup that
5 seconds.
does not have those fees that are incorporated in it, and everyone can buy and sell on that platform.
Okay. Clap it up for him. Clap it up for him. Now, that was good, right? You'll see sometimes when we get into psychology, it's good to use something that's familiar. That's why a lot of people say, I'm the Twitter of this, or we're the Amazon of that. Good, but I think you might have harped on it a little bit too much. I think you could have said it, right? Gave a little data, 15%, 2%, high fees, and then you could have went right into the why, everything else, why it tied in. So first, the Amazon, good relatability. It hits it, you know what I mean? It hits right into the head. Okay, Amazon, okay, cool. 15% less. Oh, I got it. 15. Amazon, cool. Okay, what else? Quickly, right? Using the data that you might have had, tying it to something that's familiar, imagination, and then getting to the end result, which is tell me more about that. Next company.
Just from data experience, relating it directly to Novel City. So, and this is a good way to present, and I'm gonna utilize your example. So, with just like you said, innovation. That's Novel City is in the market of innovation. So, Kansas City specifically has been thwarting innovation. Now, what we're doing is we're utilizing new processes to actually increase the rate of innovation, so we can increase production, i.e., world benefit, to change Kansas City into an innovation hub.
Okay, that was good. I was about to say 10 seconds. Clap it up for him. I would say this: when you're talking about organizations, you want to make sure you're also certain on numbers. Whether it's percentages, whether it's multiples, whether it's other percentage. Oh, these countries are not doing what we're doing because of. You want to make sure you tie it back, no matter what. And it's quick. That was quick, but I think it could have been a little more on the story that you could have wrapped me with, so that I can ask why. One more company. Nobody want to raise their hand. You know that's actually that's in your brain, right? The reason why you don't raise your hand, you know that, right? I can tell it. I can tell it, yeah? Open y'all up.
Okay, my name is Hurston. I was invited, so I didn't have a formal company plan, but I do have a quick test if it's all right. Who has watched Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Okay, when I say in West Philadelphia, born and raised, what's next? Represent most of my days, chilling out, maxing, relaxing, cooling off, shooting some b-ball outside of the school. When a couple of guys, they were up. Okay, so my idea was to use hip hop to help increase literacy rates. Because hip hop music, the rhythm of it, the cadence of it, can offer a new way or a traditional way, if depending on what community you're from, for learning vocabulary that you may be familiar with or not be familiar with. The application would be called Off the Dome, and it would give teachers the opportunity to upload vocabulary words and use a timing mechanism to allow the students to essentially create a freestyle over a beat. And then they can look at that and then share that with their friends and then do kind of a competitive thing. Subversively, it would be teaching them words that they're not familiar with.
Nice, awesome, give them a clap. It's subconsciously they'll be teaching them that, right? Kind of like just hypnosis so that they can learn it. It's a good idea. Okay, so now, partner up. Partner up. Different person, quickly. We're not gonna take 9 minutes, we're gonna take 5 minutes. We're taking 5 minutes. Somebody different. No, actually, you know what? You guys can pair up and go to this side. Pair up and go out right there on that side. You guys can pair up and go to the back. You guys can stand up too. I know I heard 3 people already, but I want you guys to do exactly what we just did. Pitch your story using data that you've already collected. This is your company. This is what you guys are doing. Ready? So you guys should definitely already have some numbers, whether it's competitors, whether it's not, whatever. Ready? You got 5 minutes. Go. We'll speed it up a little bit. 2 minutes. Switch. If you haven't switched, switch. Minute left.
So right now we're doing better on the state level. So, I mean, you just sign up and
30 seconds. Time. Time. You guys stay where you are. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. I heard a lot of good things. Stay where you are. So I'm gonna come around. I'm only gonna do 2. So I heard you guys going over here. I'll let you go. Yep. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Your story. Your company's story using data.
All right, so my company is called Fast Democracy, and it's about keeping everybody informed about what is going on in U.S. Congress, in the state legislators, and soon also on a local level. So you can essentially select which topics you're interested in, and it will send you updates, and it will keep you informed, so you don't miss anything, and so you have some more control over what your representatives are doing, and actually, this is also a business problem because 30% of business revenues depends on government actions.
Clap it up. Clap it up. Now look. I'm gonna say this. Lead with that.
Okay.
Lead with the data. One thing that of course can be up and down is language. Numbers can't. They're always clear. If it's 72% of people, when you believe it's 72% of people, it's 72% of people. Say it first, because then I'll listen to everything else. Another company? Who haven't I gotten yet? Javier, would you like to grace us? Sure. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, some of you have seen my presentation before, so you kind of know what I do. But the main pitch of my company, we started my own company 20 years ago, but the business itself, I've been doing it for 30 plus years. And when I started doing research and collecting information on performance of payments. And we teamed up originally with the Kansas Department of Transportation. Then we teamed up with a lot of local agencies, and we collected hard data. And based on that, we developed prediction models for the payments, which are very unique to our area because the existing models are very generic. They'll
7
work
seconds, Javier.
somewhat in Minnesota, somewhat in Texas, but not necessarily well in
5
here.
seconds.
So we use Operation
2
Research.
I ain't playing. You think I'm not gonna take any light on you? I can go. I know you can go. I know you can go. Lead with the data, no matter what it is. Always lead. I'm gonna do one more person. Javier's like a star, so I'm not even gonna. One more person in the back. There we go.
I only volunteered because I am terrible at talking about it. And when people ask me what I want to do, like what business I want to start, I actually do a big like.
That's good. That's all. That's
have
good.
to explain
That's great.
it. So start with data. This is a made up number. Don't know what it is.
Cool.
So let's say with student loan debt at the highest level it's ever been, let's go with $2 trillion. In the U.S., we're at an all-time crisis for personal finance and literacy in this country, which is why I want to focus on youth and teaching them the financial concepts, the mindset, and the skills that they're going to need to be successful and to not work until they're 60 like so many of us will have to do. And with fourth grade age being optimal for retaining 70% of what they learn, we focus on that younger age group so they can do advanced financial concepts at a young age.
Thank you. There we go. Now that was great. That was great. You know, some of the, there could have been some stuff, but that was all right. That was fine. That was clean enough. I would say the $2 trillion, and you see how the $2 trillion rang against your ears? It could have been 1 billion. It could have been 1 million, but it rang. You want people's ears to perk up when you're talking about something you care about. And most of the time, that comes down to data and numbers, especially if you've already done your research. You put in the time. You put in the effort. And now you want someone to hear you, because I don't know how many of you guys are going to go out to raise money, or you're going to be talking to customers. And you want to say, hey, you know what, $2 trillion a year is spent on, early childhood education. And then you get into your pitch, and you're like, wow, I heard $2 trillion. I heard child education. Right? It becomes a pyramid. It becomes, okay, money, emotion, all of it correlates. So if you guys, as you guys are building your companies and you get more data, you understand that, okay, you know what, you don't have to talk about your churn rate or your lifetime value yet. Make sure when you are talking about it in the pitch that it rings bells. So I'm not going to go over these companies much. I'm going to talk a little bit. Some of the questions that I did have. I did like what the healthcare, because it is near and dear to me, because I've done healthcare for a while. I just had some questions here. What are some of your goals for 2019? Do you already have an app? I did see you did. Okay, here you go.
The quick one-liner for what we do is we do unlimited primary care for a flat monthly fee by taking the insurance out of the equation completely. I can't remember if I asked this at the beginning or the end, but this ownership of software I feel like is so important in my business, in that I don't own any software, so I don't have a lot of control over what I'm able to do here. And so the app is from my electronic health record vendor, and it's very useless.
Okay.
Which is frustrating. Would anybody like to design one for me? I don't pay very well.
But this is some of the stuff that we run up against when it comes to trying to scale economically, right? And as you know, I was thinking about Excel spreadsheets are some of the greatest things that you can have now as a startup. I would say, especially in your field, you have to tie into emotion. How is that individual feeling when they walk in? Can you capture that now?
In a numerical data set?
Yeah. Okay. What if you were able to put in an iPad or put in an Excel spreadsheet every single time a person came up? How do you feel right now? Right? That doesn't cost any money, doesn't really cost what you might need, but it's just another question to be asked. Right? Well, yeah, there's a lot of different companies that do those services. Yours is a little different because of HIPAA compliance and because of other things that you might not want to spend the money on right now, but you can gather the data if you want to by asking the right questions. Okay, yep, I know. All right, so I'll fly through these real quick. What is your data structure? What is an algorithm? I think these will be on the quiz that you guys can take that's uploaded. Yep. Nope. So I'll fly through this part pretty quickly. Neuromarketing, commercial marketing communication, that field that applies neuropsychology to market research, studying consumers and sensory data. How can you apply some of these things into your company? By touching on the 5 senses, right? Things that you can tie in that are completely unconscious and moving up to the conscious self. You wonder why your customers come in there because they feel a pain or they feel something that hurts them. So they gradually come in. Maybe gaming is another way that you can tie on to people unconsciously. Is it your senses? Maybe I heard someone does a catering company, right? Less than 1% of our senses, that's all of us, black, white, Spanish, it doesn't matter who you are, is tied to our nose, 1%. How can you get them in there to smell to come back? 30% comes from your eyes. That's why marketing dollars are so high. Because whoever controls the eyes controls. Exactly. So how are you tying this back into your company? Utilizing the senses that we all have, whether you're from here or China. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to us. All of these slides will be up. I get a little bit more into how to tie in long-term memory, like the smells when the person walks in, what makes them come back, right? Or if it's healthcare or if it's gamification. And then, of course, long-term memory, the difference between conscious and unconscious thought. And then getting into some higher level things when it comes to eye gazing. One of my good friends, he sold his company called iFluence, which got sold to Google, I believe, for like $96 million or $1 billion. Which what they did eye tracking. They did eye tracking inside of VR headsets. So they were able to track your eyes inside of VR headsets so that they created heat maps. And see, this is a low level because they said that when it came down to neuromarketing, people were so focused on the baby that they didn't look at the product. So they saw that they have to have the baby looking at the product, and they actually converted more people. How does your company, your startup, how can you develop the same exact feedback loop? Whether it's a nonprofit, maybe it's impact, maybe it's certain ads that you want to send out to your customers. And then, of course, decision and design paralysis. How does your website look? Is it cluttered? Is it bad? Is it clear pictures? Is it not clear pictures? Less color, of course, is always the better. And then anchoring, of course, right? Small little study about cognitive bias. What makes people kind of come back to their product? 2 hotels, this is a very small data set. 2 hotels are offering the same exact things, but one offers free coffee. You wonder why you choose the one with free coffee. You make a subconscious decision in a conscious manner. A lot of the companies that you guys are going to be building, you're building it off of your subconscious or based off of the subconscious of the customers that you feel you're going to apply to. Your business is based off of people getting hurt, right, when you break it down to it. My company is based off of people being human. These are the companies we want to build. And these are just some questions to ask yourself. What senses am I targeting? How do senses pertain to my business, and how can I start to direct my knowledge towards each and individual sense? How have I really done clear empirical and economic data structure? And of course, what is my plan for 3 to 5 years? And this is my book list like I always give out. I read a lot. If you guys want to take a picture of that, I definitely will look at some of the books. And of course, I got a shout out to Jabbar, of course, at the bottom. Right. What's up, Jabbar? How you doing? All right. I appreciate it. I won't read this, but I'll say, explore the web in your brain, the pathways, the neurons, because the things that you are going to build are important to you. And if you want a better, if you want to set yourself up better than you are now, think of it in 3 different dimensions, right? Later on, 3 to 5 years, look at yourself out there and say, this is where I want to be, but this is where I am now. And what do I have to sacrifice? What is it that's subconsciously killing me to not get me to the conscious big picture? If you guys can tie those things in and look back at yourself and look at it holistically, I'm pretty sure, like I said, we'll have $3 to $5 million companies in here, because that's what statistics say. Hey, everybody. I'm back with Novel City Ventures and 55B. I wanted to make sure that I answered any questions that anyone else had when we were talking about our presentation yesterday, as it got cut kind of short. So I'm going to be finishing up my presentation. This is going to be the aspect that we were talking about, neuromarketing, how to develop applications, whether it's cooking, or if you're looking for building your technology company, or maybe it's even marketing, how to add in some applications of neuromarketing. So yesterday we went into depth about AI, machine learning, different data structures, how to tell a story with your data. And today I wanted to kind of get into more of a fact of some of the 5 senses that we all use that all can be applicable for what you're doing. So neuromarketing, as I spoke to it yesterday, is a commercial marketing communication field that applies to neuropsychology to marketing research, studying consumers' sensory, cognitive, and affective response to marketing stimuli. That's really big and convoluted, right? So what I want to make sure that everyone understands is you have 5 senses. We don't have any other senses, right? And how can you use your application, what you're building, to touch on those 5 senses? When you talk about empathy, when you talk about maybe, I've talked yesterday about the bakery, right? How can you get senses to smell, but you have to first see that product before you walk in and want to come back? Right? So I want you guys to build whatever particular industry that you're in based off of 5 senses. So we're going to go in a little bit more depth. I'm going to be breaking it down just a little bit. So the next slide we have is the thermometer, the emotional thermometer way of looking at life in your business. So we have the unconscious mind and we have the conscious mind, right? We go from emotion to feeling, sight, taste, smell, hear, and touch. How many of your companies deal with any of these? Is it maybe like the gaming company, to where you have to gamify certain aspects in order for a person to come back? Are you a nonprofit and maybe you're trying to really touch on empathy and having people reach out in another way or come back? Or is it something that is more on the surface level of the conscious mind? Is it something that's just quick? Is it something that you can revert back to? Is your company maybe the storytelling company as well? Are you trying to really invoke an emotion? And how can you tell? First, what I would say is identify what company you're building, identify what particular sense you're going to, and then attack that sense. 30% of what we gather in our brain is through our eyes. And that can go up and down at different times. 1% and subpar 1% deal with smell. 8% is touch. Think about that, right? So what does your industry have to do with something we all have that can better engage your customers, your clientele, develop an ROI or an ROTI, which is what I call return on investment or return on time invested, which a lot of people don't talk about. So what is it that your company's doing? How can you identify those trends? And then cater to those trends so people come back. Some of the types of memory that you might have, if we look here, sensory, when it comes into milliseconds. You have economic, right? Spots in your vision after a flash of hearing something. Then you have working memory. How many companies are working off of your working memory? You have intermediate memory and then long-term memory. Some of the stories, like I know I did a lot of research. I did most of the research on some of the storytelling companies that are in the incubator for Novel City, and then one of the marketing or maybe the healthcare company. How do you want to gather that data, structure it so that it goes into senses instead of just trying to figure out every particular human being? So how can you get your company to be a long-term memory? Is it something that you maybe shot a video for that you can keep on repeat for marketing? Did you involve the clients in the video so that they can go back to it and actually see it? Or is it something that's pretty quick? Is it something that could be played upon on the senses? Is it maybe a game? Do you have maybe a social narrative? Can you tie in his friends? Can you tie in their friends? And gather a way of why an individual will want to come back to your company. When you're building these processes as a startup, you want to answer all of these questions. But you want to make sure that your data aligns with that. Have you done research when it came to the application that you want to build or the particular product that you want to have? Now, is what you are building memorable, as I've said? Is every interaction with your product memorable? I think one of the things I would hear is, well, I'm a startup, how can I do that? How can you not do it? If you're trying to build an actual organic user base, you have to get in front of people. You have to be able to talk to people about what you are building. And I want to always take it back to the companies that are working with Novel City now, because those are the ones that are important. Those are the ones that we're speaking to. As you are bringing in more and more products, as you are trying to develop your roadmap, for those that don't know what a roadmap is, this is a product roadmap, what you're doing in the beginning, what you're going to do in the middle, what you're going to do at the end. You want every particular aspect to be memorable. So right here, I get into this a lot in some of my writing, my blogs. I talk about subconscious and the conscious mind, right? I'm in the conscious mind right now, but a lot of the stuff that I'm speaking to has been developed subconsciously. All the writing, all the reading, all the other talks that I've done is built off of memory. We are a working memory. Consistently. Everyone consistently gets better. So based off of the companies, right, you have your decision making that's usually made consciously, and you have your subconscious that's usually made off of whatever particular biases it might be, or particular, maybe if an individual is working off of storytelling, maybe it's a bad story and that invokes emotion. Or maybe it's a healthcare issue where I talked about KCDC, where they said, well, we basically get paid off of people that are sick, or you got to work with insurance companies, et cetera, et cetera. How does that bring in more engagement? How can you tie in the fact that, okay, I got to tie in my story, tie in my network to make a viable product, and then iterate on it? So the next thing, I talked a little bit about this, just some basic tips. This was a study that was done. There's a lot of studies that get done like this now. A lot of stuff working in VR that I've done when it came to eye tracking. A lot of you might think, oh, this is super expensive. It's really not. It's not that expensive. You can use this on your website. You can use this on certain products that you might have to gauge in better engagement. So one particular thing that they said was everyone looked at the baby's face. They saw the heat map here. But they want them to buy the diapers, right? So they felt and they found out through empirical data research and structure, through data, that people were looking more at the face of the baby, and they said, you know what? Let's make the baby look at the product, and maybe we can get more people to sell. And they did. So think about it. I put here gaming, media, publishing, or health and wellness. How do these things like these particular innovations tie into your business? Is it gaming? Can you understand how many swipes it takes or how many clicks it takes from your website or your app? Are you even thinking that way, right? I'll talk a little bit more in the next couple of slides when it comes to decision paralysis, right? Having an individual swipe too much or click too much or where a certain button is. All of that is from design and data that you've gathered from individuals. One particular story that comes to mind is Airbnb. Airbnb had an issue because they were they were talking about where their customers were their target. This is a really good data story. And I believe it was Paul Graham, famous Paul Graham, said, hey, you got to get out to New York. And when you got to get out to New York, you got to really find out what the individuals that are already on your product, what they're doing. So in going out there, they said they found out that people were taking terrible pictures. That was one of the main reasons why they weren't selling. Because people were taking pictures of their homes in dim areas and very rusty areas. They weren't really cleaning up. And people didn't want to jump on the application to buy anything. But what they did was them themselves went out. They shot their own pictures like they were professional camera makers or filmmakers. And after that, people miraculously started selling more and renting out more homes just because of design. Just because they kept figuring out that, you know what, I can't shoot it here, I can't shoot it there, I got to place this here, place that there. They understood that. That's something I definitely would say you guys can take into effect as well.
They got some cool photos too.
So I guess a question, right?
So question is, you talked about creating long-term memories.
Yeah.
What exactly, how would a small business create a long-term memory in the potential consumer?
Yeah. Okay, so I guess it would depend on the industry. If we're talking about healthcare, right? I can say that when it comes to maybe the problems that they might have with regulations, how can you substantially bring a person in and then get that person to come back without saying, hey, we want you to get hurt again, or we want you to feel bad. It's about when they're there and you solve their problem, it's about how you communicate with them after the fact, along that process. And data will actually help you do that. For example, a person comes into a store, or a person comes into healthcare and they might say they're sick. You fix them, right? They're okay. When they go back, they might get maybe an SMS text message or an email. How did you feel? All of that is all data, right? How is it that you feel? And then follow back up a week later. Now, these things could be chatbots that you can create right now, where you're talking about chatbots can be done for less than $100. You can build a chatbot, or you can create someone, or you can have someone to build a chatbot. And that chatbot, what it can do is it can follow and keep engaging your customers without you even being there. You can set up what it can say. You can set up the way that it can talk back. Chatbots do a lot of that small level stuff, like what would help in healthcare, just saying, we need some better engagement. We want to get people understanding that talking to someone other than me is actually a good thing. And we've all done that already. Alexa, Siri, we've all done it. So I would say creating that engagement and continuing it by a simple "how do you feel" will go a long way, and they might not choose another particular health practice.
Gotcha. And then one of the other questions for Das earlier was, what are the tools that you would advise a small business, let's say ranging from a restaurant to a daycare to a direct primary care, or a game selling shop? What could they use to better find the data and then bring that data in, make sense of it, and then put it into practice to
Good question.
hook in more customers?
So what I would say to that is, data is basically a pool, right? Your company's a pool. Data is one of those things. And the particular tips that you can put inside of that depends on you and the questions you ask. So if I am a restaurant company, do you have the money to put up certain things that when people come in, it rings, like the Wi-Fi thing we were talking about within restaurants? But I'm not going to talk about restaurants. I'll talk more so about the novel city companies. Say the gaming company, right? How do we make them come back? Social network, geolocation. When a person is close to that particular store, are they texting? Are they in that geolocation? Do they get an ad, or does the gamification tell them, "Hey, your friends are playing. Won't you play too?" Small things like that go a long way, especially when you're on an app. And I would say use APIs willingly. Being able to log into Facebook, be able to log into Instagram, be able to utilize Google as being able to draw contacts is another thing you can also do. Geolocation, enable location, set up a new location as well. You can hit those buttons. That's simple. It's Google. It's mainly all that stuff is free or very, very low level that you can do as a startup. And it starts off by implementing it first. Once you start to grab the data, you can then start classifying it and tagging it. That's what we call, I can get into unsupervised learning, supervised learning. That goes down more of the machine learning AI realm. After you gather that data, you can then start classifying it in different areas, and then it can create its own loops. So use Google. One big thing I said was the geolocation. I think is very, very, especially in this area, when it comes to the media company that says, well, we're a local-based content creator that wants to be big, right? That's good. That's really good. That's cool. But when you want to be local-based, people might not know who you are, and you might be local, right? You might be calling yourself local, but you might not know who you are. It's good to get that location data. It's almost like gold. I was in AR before, so I dealt with computer vision. I dealt with geolocation. I understand. I had to almost become an architect when it came down to different spaces, because we'd have to come in and actually outfit and light up the entire space so that when you walk in here, we know who you are and you walk around. So I would just say simple tips to answer the question. Excel, of course, ask the right questions if you want to do it economically, low on a budget when you're a startup, but identify your industry first, whether you're a media company that wants to be big or you're small, or if you're a healthcare company. And then when you do that and you ask the right questions, you gather that data, low budget, Google Doc, Excel spreadsheet, right? And once you can identify those particular problems, then the solutions will just come. And as you're gaining more engagement, you're getting more people, that it creates a loop.
Great. And the last question is, both you and Das have referred to APIs.
Yeah.
I'm afraid a lot of our fellows won't know
Completely
the term
understand.
or understand
Application
why
processing interface.
that's, what exactly that means for them.
Yeah. So I would say this, APIs are we even, 55B, Cody, we do an API for startups as well. So basically all an application processing interfaces, being able to use one other particular service to better yours. So Facebook, Instagram was using Facebook's API in the beginning. They kept on calling, doing API calls. That's a pretty good reason why Instagram got bought by Facebook, because they use Facebook's platform. When you jump onto someone else's platform and you utilize the data that they have, it boosts yours. So I talked about this a little bit, basically saying the entrepreneur hat and then the API hat, right? Almost because I'm the founder of a company that utilizes APIs. They're not much, 2 cents, 30 cents sometimes per API call. So think about it this way. You have Facebook. You log on to Facebook. I'm privy to my entire friends list. I have X company that wants to use your friends list, use some of your data, your likes, your comments. An API allows access. It's considered like a node. It allows access for that to happen and transpire. So, for instance, the gaming application, I forgot their name. I want to understand. I get on the gaming app. I'm going, or I'm about to log in, and I say, "Oh, Facebook." What it does is, I talked about this when it comes down to neuromarketing as well. I see something that's familiar. Facebook. I can log in with Facebook. I'm in America. Of course, I want to use Facebook. That's an API. I hit Facebook. I get now a better experience when it comes to the application. So when these people are building these things and they take in effect, okay, Facebook, they take in Instagram, Spotify, all of these companies, they want one congruent way of working so they can capture all of the data. Like us, right? Our API calls deals with emotion and deals with syntax on sentiment, people texting, right? We get to a point where we can understand and actually be able to gauge different heat maps from people just off of words. We can't charge $5, $6, $7, $8 for that. It has to be a low API call that anybody can use. So hopefully I answered the question that API calls are similar to a node like in your brain, right? It's the connectors, right? The system that makes the product better. That's all an API call is.